This is the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Shoshana Rowe-Parkinson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news tonight, newly renovated wards and departments at the Rand Memorial Hospital officially recommissioned today. It marks the first phase of the redevelopment of the island's premier healthcare facility. The hospital was severely damaged during Hurricane Dorian, resulting in services being transferred off property. But that will change come Monday. The nation's leader, along with other government officials, were on Grand Bahama for the official recommissioning ceremony. Our Italia Hall was there.
It was a grand occasion for government officials as well as those within the healthcare sector. After months of refurbishment and construction, the Rand Memorial Hospital can now reopen with its primary services under one roof. Health officials say it has not been easy as staff and health services were displaced and temporarily transferred to various sites across the island. Hospital Administrator Sharon Williams reflecting on the challenges and thanked those who assisted the hospital during that period.
When faced with dire circumstances such as Dorian, followed immediately by COVID while we were yet on the ground, our goal was to stand and deliver.
Minister of Health, the Honorable Renwood Wells, says the occasion is a significant accomplishment for the Grand Bahama Health Services.
Those of us throughout the Bahamian healthcare sector will long remember the devotion to duty displayed by our colleagues in the Grand Bahama Health Services family. Your sacrificial service during the height of Hurricane Dorian and through the challenging weeks and months that followed have set a high standard that all of us in the healthcare sector should wish to emulate.
Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, joining in the celebration. He says the recommissioning is just the first phase of the redevelopment of the hospital.
What you see here represents the indomitable spirit of Grand Bahamians and the tireless efforts of health planners, health executives, skilled laborers, tradesmen, and dedicated health workers. They have gone above and beyond to restore this essential institution vital to the healthcare needs of the people of Grand Bahama and the Northern Bahamas.
The nation's leader says for the next phase of the redevelopment of the hospital, the cabinet has already granted the Public Hospitals Authority approval to engage a company to develop detailed plans for a new climate-resilient hospital and clinic facility with the requisite funding.
This will shortly result in the award of a contract for the construction of a 4-level tower that will allow for the inpatient services to be removed from the ground floor level to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th story level.
Now the nation's leader acknowledging that there's still more work to be done on Grand Bahama, but this further investment confirms the government's commitment to restoring and rebuilding this northern island.
In the event of another major disaster, healthcare services will not have to be displaced, as was the case following Hurricane Dorian. For this purpose, the Ministry of Finance is to disperse the allocated $18 million from the Hurricane Dorian Fund. I am pleased to confirm that the PHA secured a consulting services agreement proposal with the Beck Group, a government-approved healthcare planning, architectural, and engineering firm, in August of 2020.
The nation's leader says work associated with the master planning, programming, and design for this redevelopment project is scheduled to commence in May of this year. Now, following the recommissioning ceremony, the Prime Minister and his delegation was taken on a tour of the newly renovated wards and departments, the new reverse osmosis system, the medical and surgical wards, and the food services department. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News.
And the Prime Minister, during his address, also noting that by the end of next month, he hopes to return to Grand Bahama to formalize the government's takeover the Grand Bahama International Airport. And not long after that, he will sign the Grand Lucayne Resort over to its new official owners. Well, a number of private and government officials were a part of the recommissioning ceremony of the Rand Memorial Hospital this morning. President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Rolls, says the hospital is a significant asset that Grand Bahama should have to further develop the island.
A proper hospital is needed. I mean, this is phase one. The Prime Minister spoke about other phases, including the establishment or creation of a 4-story facility. That's another phase, but we have to have 5-star medical facilities here in order to encourage persons to come to work, live and play in Grand Bahama. So I embrace, and the Port Authority, we embrace what is happening here today, and we are prepared to also facilitate the progress and advancement of the health care facilities in Grand Bahama.
Member of Parliament for North Abaco, the Honorable Darren Henfield, says that he is pleased to be a part of the recommissioning of the hospital.
Because the RAND is important to the tertiary level health care that is provided not only for Grand Bahama, but for Abaco and Bimini as well, for the Northern Bahamas. And so we're very pleased to be here and participating in this event today.
Meantime, the Minister of Health, Ranwood Wells, pleased with the newly refurbished Rand Memorial Hospital. Minister Wells addressing the country's current challenge with COVID-19 during an interview with our Talia Hall.
Of hesitancy, the health minister says there has been a significant increase in persons signing up to be vaccinated. In the meantime, he says the government is also working to secure more vaccines.
The United Kingdom has announced that they are beyond the pandemic based on two things. One, the large portion of their population that they have now vaccinated, and they vaccinated their persons while everyone was adhering to the health protocols. It brought their numbers of positive down dramatically. And Israel is announcing the same thing, having done the same process that we are now going through, the process that we have decided to ensue and ensure as a government takes place. And so we're looking to, in the near future, to be able to say, as Israel is opening up, in Israel you don't need to even wear a mask anymore.
Now there's been some controversy surrounding the right of an employer to demand that employees be vaccinated, while the health minister maintains that vaccinations are not mandatory.
The three-pronged policy is this: vaccinations are not mandatory, that the vaccinations are free, and that we are not going to vaccinate anyone at this stage under the age of 18 unless the science changes and says that it's okay to do so. And so the government of the Bahamas is moving forward with its vaccination for all of the individuals who are stepping forward, who are receiving the vaccine and wanting to receive the vaccine.
Some have questioned the cost of testing as well. The RT-PCR COVID-19 tests can cost up to $200 at some facilities. Minister Wells says that is a private sector matter and the government cannot intervene at this time.
The government of the Bahamas, as you know, we do not charge for the RT-PCR testing, but we test those individuals who come forward who are presenting possibly with symptoms, and so we have to test to make sure it is not the flu. So we have a gene expert machine here in Grand Bahama Health Services that test RT-PCR for COVID-19.
Now, it was announced this week that effective May 1st, those traveling to the Bahamas from outside of the country will be exempted from a COVID-19 test if they are fully vaccinated and have passed the 2-week immunity period.
Vaccinations, your opportunity to contract is greatly reduced. The effects, the clinical effects that happens with you contracting COVID is greatly reduced. And it gives you the opportunity to be able to, as a society, move to a circumstance that we now see taking place with the flu, more or less, where every year there's like a new strain and folks get a vaccination shot, but we don't shut down our societies because of flus. And a lot of experts are predicting that that's probably what's going to end up being the circumstance of COVID.
It's Talia Hall, ZNS Network News.
Now to the latest COVID-19 stats. A total of 50 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed in the country yesterday. 5 of those cases from Grand Bahama, 1 from the Berry Islands, 3 from Exuma, and the other 41 cases from New Providence. There are 49 hospitalizations. 10 are in Grand Bahama. 57 recoveries were reported, and the death toll has now climbed to 196, and that's following the death of a 37-year-old Nassau woman who died on April 21st and a 91-year-old male who died on Grand Bahama on April 20th. Meantime, Abaco's nightly curfew has been reduced to 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. This coming from Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. President of the Abaco Chamber of Commerce, Kent Hutton, says it is certainly good news for the business community.
I think it's a really good thing for the local restaurants and food purveyors, because it allows them basically another 2.5 hours before they were having to close at like 6 o'clock in order to clean up. The keys themselves, they were never affected by the 8 p.m. curfew. They were always at a 10 o'clock. So this really just evens the playing field for us here on the mainland, and we're very encouraged by it and hoping this leads to even more normalcy here.
Well, businessman Silbert Mills says the reduced curfew is welcome news for the young people on the island.
They didn't feel that it was right for them to be forced to go home at 8 o'clock for the past 2 months. And they were getting agitated. So they are the most happiest that this has been lifted and extended.
Switching gears now, the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce hosting a joint press conference to announce a major boost to the local economy through the return of the cruise line industry. As you will hear in this report, the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line will be making a once-a-week stop in Grand Bahama beginning this June, making way for hundreds, if not thousands, of local businesses to provide service to its guests. It is being billed as a significant opportunity for a variety of businesses in Grand Bahama. This, as the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line Adventure of the Seas will begin sailing from the Port of Nassau beginning June 12th and making a once-a-week stop on Grand Bahama for refueling and provisioning purposes with its nearly 4,000 passengers. President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Rolls, says this 6-month voyage creates limitless possibilities for local businesses.
That ship is also coming to Grand Bahama, not only for the guests to experience the unique opportunities that exist here, the unique excursions, etc., and tourism-related products. But what's most important is that that ship will be provisioning here in Grand Bahama, and by that, what I mean is that the ship will have to buy supplies to service the 3,500 to 4,000 guests on a daily basis.
At this point, it is difficult to predict the economic boost that this partnership will provide to the Grand Bahamian economy. But Rolls says one thing is for sure, it will be significant and many businesses will benefit.
All of our licensees, especially the farmers, the fishermen, those in manufacturing, to form an association, a partnership with each other, so you can create the excellent product that is needed to excite the guests on board the Royal Caribbean ship. And I know it's a 6-month initiative, but I believe if we continue to show our excellence to Royal Caribbean, heaven knows where that can lead us to.
Representative of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, Mick Holdings, believe this home porting project presents a chance for businesses to rebound and is encouraging interested business owners to attend a planned Zoom meeting with additional information this coming Monday. There, various stakeholders, including RCCL, will be in attendance to answer questions.
What is going to happen now is that on Monday, at 1 p.m. we'll be holding a webinar, and at that webinar there'll be representatives from Ian and myself, but also government representatives, but more importantly there'll be the people from Royal Caribbean who will be telling you exactly what they're looking for, and how businesses can apply to become suppliers to Royal Caribbean. And whilst this might only be a 6-month initial program, that's 26 visits to Grand Bahama for them to supply 3,500 to 4,000 passengers and crew. It's a huge opportunity.
Persons interested in attending the Zoom meeting this Monday can visit bit.ly/HomeportGB to register and receive login details. Now, this project is a collaborative effort between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and the Grand Bahama Island Tourism Board. Stay with us. There's more news on the other side of the break.